Hi, I'm Andrew Walen. I am the owner and GM of School of Rock Pikesville. And we are going to have a conversation today with our Assistant General Manager, Bob Jachens, and our Music Director, David Favazza. And we are talking today about building confidence in young musicians. And today I thought I would start off by talking about our own experiences of being a young musician who struggled with confidence. And I thought I would start off by asking each of you guys, can you remember the first time you actually performed in front of an audience and what that was like?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great topic because I think a lot of musicians are very sensitive types, and we often struggle with self-confidence, thinking that we can do what we see all these other people doing, what we love so much. So it's definitely a good topic for conversation and something I think is pretty universal. So for me, I do remember my first show was with my buddy Larry and his dad and his dad's musical partner. They had a gig where they would play at the mall down in, I think, Springfield, Virginia. And Larry and I had worked up a couple of songs, and yeah, I was terrified.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I guess for me, I just had this sort of feeling like if something scared me, I didn't want it to control me. So I didn't like that I was scared, right?
So what did you do? Like, how did you prepare for that gig?
I think what I did was I just kind of over practiced is what I would say. I worked so hard.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Over practicing? I don't know. Well, I think practice makes perfect, but then is there perfect practice? I don't know.
There's no perfect practice, but I think you probably got. I'm not to cut you off, but I'm assuming that you got on stage and realized, like, oh crap, like I'm actually really prepared.
No, I felt like I think my experience from what
You should still practice.
Yeah, right. Well, because this is why. Because you get on stage and literally everything blanks from your mind. And I think what carried me through was the muscle memory. And then once I got started, then all of the confidence issues faded for me. Because it was just, I was just looking at my friend and we were just doing our thing and sort of everything else kind of melted away. So for me, my experience was it was much worse going up into it, all the anxieties and stuff. But then once we started, it kind of all felt normal and good.
So what about you, David? So what was your first performance and what was was there anxiety?
Very well. Aside from a couple of things, yeah, of course. I always get nervous. There's always a bit of nerves and excitement before a show, regardless. But I'm a little different, where it's like I use that to my advantage, I think, and Now I love performing. I always kind of did in a weird way. Of course, I was nervous the first time. Well, I'll go into that too. My first time was
let's talk about the first time.
when I was at camp. I was at something very similar to School of Rock.
How old were you?
It was called Day Jams. I was like 9 or 10.
Okay. Pretty
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
9 or 10. It was the same kind of thing. You were there for a week of summer camp, and you would join a band. You would create a band name. You would create band merch. You would write one song, and then you would perform that song at the end of the week. And it was originally at Maryvale. It was Maryvale, I guess high school. That's a high school, I think.
I think it's a Maryville Prep.
Maryville Prep. It's like multiple grades. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they moved it over to Park School after that, because Park actually has like a real theater. But yeah, we would just do the shows like in their gym, and all the kids that went there were so cool. They were all wearing band t-shirts, already very similar to School of Rock-ish kind of a vibe, right? And I was like, I guess I was intimidated by that part of it because it was a whole new world. And it was a whole new thing for me. And I was like, where do I fit here? But then once I found out that I did have a knack for playing drums, because drums is my main instrument, I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go show them what I could do. And everybody there. So I was very fortunate to be in an environment where everybody like fostered the fact that I was very much beginner, which is like kind of like what we do. But of course, being on stage for the first time, in front of people that have been doing this for years, in front of a community of people that have been doing it for years, was nerve-wracking, definitely at first, but I was very fortunate to have really, really good teachers and a lot of great people that were there already.
Yeah. So did anybody sort of coach you, like, here's how you breathe, here's how you get through it, how you prepare, or was it just good luck, kid?
It was kind of just good luck. It was kind of just good luck, kid, but it was a lot of practice. It was a lot of practicing. And then again, being in a band, it was like a lot of bonding, and they made sure that we had the moments for all of us to get to know each other, be comfortable with each other. So then by that time we felt like a team, and we all wanted to be on stage, right? By the end of it. Right. Which is ultimately School of Rock's goal as well.
So my first time, it's funny that you say your first time performing was with Larry. So my first time performing was with Larry. All right, so we have a bit. So it was actually, my first performance was with Larry and Bob and our friend Steve, and we were playing the EC Does It Cafe, I think was where it was like our
little tiny place.
Oh yeah. And it was an open mic night where we were the featured act at the end, right? And I had never sung in front of anybody before. I had played guitar, and I played even banjo from the time I was a little kid. And I remember doing recitals and piano lesson recitals, and those were such like they were scary, but like, I don't know. I think it's almost like, well, that's what everybody's kind of used to, scary, And then it was like, oh, this is like a real audience, like people who are, like. So I just remember the feeling of the dry mouth, rapid heart rate, and the sweaty palms, and well, we were 18.
Yeah. And it was kind of a chaos involved because we got there and it was so tiny. We had to move chairs and tables and cram into a corner. And then it was quite a busy place.
And there's coffee machines grinding in the back. It was like, whatever.
So did you feel nervous going into that?
Completely overwhelmed. And my brain was racing. And I know we had rehearsed a bunch, and I knew we had done, practice in my basement. And we had gotten all our act together. But how do you do it is like, there's a great country song that says, if you're going through hell, keep on going, don't slow down. You might get out before the devil even knows you're there. And I think that's a great way of how I sort of think about facing anxiety is you don't like not be anxious. It's you go into the anxiety and you go past it. You go, oh, I didn't die.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I guess the trick is to just, part of it is that you want to do this so much, and that you are, because it's such personal and close to the heart. It can be very, because you're like about to show your heart to people, and it's very vulnerable.
It's a very vulnerable thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
And there is legitimate possibility you might crash and burn. Like that can happen to me too.
Absolutely.
A famous one fret up story, but.
Share that one. That's a good story.
Oh no, I don't think I can share that one.
Okay.
But I played a whole song one fret too.
I think, but to your point, I think that doing it. So that's something I tell the students as well. Do it scared.
That's it.
Just do it scared. If you do it scared, you're going to realize that it's okay to feel those feelings. This is normal. I also tell people all the time too that you're nervous and being scared, nervous, feeling anxious, whatever, because you care.
That's it right there.
You care. You don't want.
That's it.
You want to sound good, and you actually care about this. This is something you value, which is something you should celebrate.
If you're not nervous, then you don't care enough, or you're psychotic. But or sociopath. I think that's the right term.
Okay.
Sociopath. But the thing that I want to make sure that people understand, we do want to teach the kids not just to go into the fear, but also how to do some things to mitigate some level of it. You're not going to not be anxious, but how do you breathe? How do you visualize the experience and visualize the positive? And not just, like you think about the great athletes, what they do. I remember my teacher in college was like, okay, I want you to just visualize singing the song how it feels in your body, how you're going to take your breath. How
That's
you're going to hold yourself.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Being able to mimic the stage
Absolutely.
as much as you possibly can
Absolutely.
is actually a really good point. And that's why even like when I'm in the lesson room with people too, like I think a big mistake that teachers make like later on, like right before the show happens, is still playing with your student, like jamming along with your student. Like if you're teaching a drum lesson, for example, if you can find a drumless version or a no drums version and also don't play with your student maybe like film it or something like that too.
Something that triggers the nervousness feeling.
You got to trigger that. Unfortunately, you have to do that, and if you don't, then you're gonna kind of show up day of. If you are dealing with somebody that's nervous, you're gonna show up day of and be like, "I told you, you should have filmed it. Should have been filming it, right?" But either way, you get through it if you just do it scared. So.
That's the thing. You get through it. I think if there's one thing that parents talk about is I don't want my kid to be in the performance program because I don't want to trigger their anxiety. I think the point of why we say we teach music as well as life skills is the life skill is you will be nervous in life. You have to face these experiences and it's the learning how strong you are or where you need to make improvements that happens in the course of this in a safe and a controlled environment. Then you go out and you're doing it with your friends and your peers, and instead of having a bunch of bandmates who might just have bad attitudes, we've got teachers who are there who are going to help create the right culture and the right experience. So,
you might strike out.
What do you mean?
You might strike out when you sign up for baseball. We're all expecting, and we're also. It's very interesting. We're
shifting our metaphors.
We're all okay. We're all okay with the fact that you might strike out, and it's like a foreseen thing almost that it might. And even if it happens, so what? Try again, right? It's okay. You might strike out. You might miss you might, if you're playing basketball, you might miss a shot. You might foul out. These are all things that people have normalized already. So.
You might be Derek Queen, and you might hit the game-ending shot for Maryland, and you might go, "Yo, I'm from Baltimore."
If you're confident, you're from Baltimore.
Yeah,
that's right.
But those are all things that have been normalized already. So it should be, it's the same thing with playing on stage.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like we're saying, prepare yourself.
Yes.
Right? Also prepare for being nervous.
Yes.
That's part of it.
It's okay to be nervous.
Yeah. Accept the nervousness.
Absolutely.
Right. And then sort of do it anyway.
Right.
But do it with some techniques that like you were saying, breathing deep. I have a certain thing that I kind of ritual do now, which is I scan my body. So I actually do some breathing work before I have to perform, or even when I'm going into the recording studio, because sometimes that's a very
that's more nerve-wracking than
that could be very different.
That's permanent,
right? And that's personally what I do more now is just record things versus perform things. But so I have a little ritual, my tea, and I try to take a couple minutes and try to center myself and do a little body scan. But a good teacher will help you figure out what you need to do to and all these different dimensions of it. But
there's an acronym I use, EAT. You're going to learn to do music, and you're going to learn to eat. E, expect you're going to feel nervous. A, you're going to accept that you're going to be nervous. And T, you're going to tolerate that you're going to be nervous.
Good.
And you're going to get through it. And that's okay. That's what we're here to teach. That's what we're here to help you with. Let's sort of close this conversation out a little bit with sort of final thoughts of, now that we've been all performing for a long time, decades even, what do you do now that you find works to mitigate your anxiety or tolerate it?
I think now that I've played live so much, and this is what I can tie into what I was going to say as well just a second ago, but I think a big thing when you're on stage, another thing is stage presence, and like being able to, like, we grow up and idolize watching all of our favorite musicians on stage, and then we get on stage and we think we need to look like them on stage or whatever as well. So I think that's part of where like the frozenness comes from as well. So I think now the more and more you do it, the more and more you can tell yourself that you don't have to look like somebody else, and you don't have to and you're finding your own individual style and presence and feel and all that on stage, because that's when you start feeling very comfortable,
Yeah.
and that's when you start kind of getting addicted to it, in my opinion. Once you're able to tap into that, so I think the more and more you do it, and of course the first time you go up on stage, don't worry about looking like someone else, or don't think about it as like a choreographed thing.
Right.
Just be comfortable and just be yourself as best as possible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Final thought on what do you do now,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you face it? I like your tea idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a little bit of a ritual, but I imagine sometimes it doesn't work out that way. I personally just always try to remember how much I love what I'm doing and what a gift it is to be able to play music with friends. And sometimes like if you're in a performance situation, just to share that with other people. I don't get as nervous as I used to be. So what I would say is that just doing it for so long, I don't get as nervous. I sang at my dad's funeral. That was one of the toughest ones I ever had to perform. I'm always asked to sing at people's, like when it's unfortunate, but that
or a gift.
Yeah, it is a gift. It is a gift. But that was so hard. That was probably the hardest performance I've had to do. And with that one, it was just like how much everybody appreciated it, and the love that I got in return for that just made all that hard work worthwhile. And that over time kind of erases all the doubts. So
Very cool.
yeah.
For me, again, I don't perform very much anymore, but it's the two experiences that you both shared that I want to reiterate. And one is the feeling that I get is I get to be up there with people I'm friends with, and I have fun, and I'm in the moment, and I'm experiencing not just the reception from me to the audience, which is great fun, but when I look over and I saw somebody in my band have a great time, and we're smiling and we're joking and we're being silly on stage, and we realize this is just play. This is not like world changing stuff. We're just having a good time.
Right.
That was it's the fun that is why we keep going back to it.
Yeah.
And to something that David said is essentially you find your own voice. I remember my favorite artist and my favorite singer was always Michael McDonald, and I was in college when my voice teacher said, "Sing with the voice you have, not the voice you wish you had." And I thought, brilliant, I got to try and do that. I got to find my voice. And it took me a long time to find it. So, don't think that what you're singing now is going to be how you're going to sing or play in the future. Just be in the moment as best as you can and do what you do as best as you can and have fun. So thank you for watching this video and having this conversation. Thank you guys for sharing your experiences.
Thank you guys for listening.
And we'll see you for another conversation soon.
And don't forget to like and follow and share.
Smash that like button.
Always wanted to say
I
that.
know. Me too.